You think you know what loyalty means in WWE? You think attacking someone from behind makes you tough? Well, Paul Heyman just destroyed that entire narrative, and what he said about Bron Breakker is going to make your blood boil. Because while everyone's celebrating Breakker as some kind of hero for what he did to Bronson Reed on Raw, the wise man just exposed the real truth that nobody wants to talk about. And trust me, after you hear this, you're never going to look at Bron Breakker the same way again. Let me paint you the picture of what went down. Bronson Reed, the absolute monster who's been decimating the entire WWE roster, was standing in that ring making a statement. The man who put Seth Rollins through absolute hell. The man who's been sending superstars to the hospital left and right. And then out of nowhere, Bron Breakker comes charging down that ramp like he's some kind of vigilante superhero, and the crowd goes absolutely insane. Spear after spear after spear. The place erupted. Social media exploded. Everyone's calling Breakker a savage, a beast, the next big thing. But here's where it gets interesting, and here's where Paul Heyman steps in to absolutely obliterate the narrative that WWE and the fans are trying to create. Paul Heyman, the most intelligent mind in professional wrestling history, the advocate who's managed everyone from Brock Lesnar to CM Punk to Roman Reigns, came out with a statement that has the entire wrestling world in an uproar. And what he said is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about what happened on Raw. Heyman said, and I quote, "Bron Breakker didn't show courage. He showed cowardice dressed up as bravery." Let that sink in for a second. The wise man just called out the golden boy of WWE's new generation as a coward. And before you start typing your angry comments, hear me out, because what Heyman said next is going to blow your mind. When you attack a man from behind, when you wait until his back is turned, when you don't give him the opportunity to defend himself, that's not being a fighter. That's being a snake. And Bron Breakker proved on Monday Night Raw that underneath all those muscles, underneath that famous last name, he's nothing more than a snake who strikes when his opponent isn't looking. Boom. Paul Heyman just went there. He didn't hold back. He didn't sugarcoat it. He called Bron Breakker exactly what he thinks he is, and the internet is absolutely divided right now. But Heyman wasn't done. Oh no, he was just getting started. Because what he said about Bronson Reed is what's really got people heated. Heyman actually defended Bronson Reed. The same Bronson Reed who's been a wrecking ball of destruction. The same man who put multiple superstars on the shelf. Paul Heyman stood up and said, Bronson Reed faces his opponents head-on. He looks them in the eye. He gives them a chance to fight back. That's a warrior. What Bron Breakker did, that's what weaklings do when they're afraid of a fair fight. Can you believe that? Paul Heyman is out here praising Bronson Reed's approach while burying Bron Breakker's attack that everyone thought was so amazing. And you know what? When you really think about it, when you strip away the emotion and the crowd reaction, Heyman might actually have a point that nobody wants to admit. Think about it for a second. Bronson Reed has been calling people out face to face. He's been challenging them directly. Yes, he's been brutal. Yes, he's been violent. But he's never hidden in the shadows. He's never waited for someone to have their back turned. He walks down that ramp, he gets in your face, and he tells you exactly what he's about to do to you. There's a certain respect in that, isn't there? A certain code that even the most vicious fighters follow. But Bron Breakker? He waited. He watched. He calculated the perfect moment when Bronson Reed wouldn't see him coming. And then he struck. Multiple spears. Multiple attacks. And Reed couldn't defend himself because he never saw it coming. That's the definition of a blindside ambush. Now, I can already hear some of you screaming at your screens. But Bronson Reed deserved it. He's been doing terrible things. And yeah, you're not wrong about what Reed has done. But here's the question that Paul Heyman is asking, and it's a question that's making people uncomfortable. Does fighting evil with cowardly tactics make you a hero, or does it just make you a different kind of villain? Heyman took it even further. He brought up Bron Breakker's family legacy. The Steiner bloodline. Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, legendary tough guys who never backed down from anyone. And Heyman said, those men were fighters. They faced their opponents head-on. They didn't need to attack from behind because they had the guts to face anyone face-to-face. Bron Breakker disrespected that legacy on Monday Night Raw. He showed that he doesn't have the courage his family is known for. That's a nuclear statement right there. Paul Heyman just said that Bron Breakker isn't living up to his family name. That's personal. That's attacking someone's heritage, their bloodline, everything they stand for. And you know that had to get under Breakker's skin, but let's dig deeper into what Heyman's really saying here, because there's layers to this that people are missing. Paul Heyman isn't just defending Bronson Reed for the sake of it. He's making a statement about what it means to be a true competitor in WWE. He's drawing a line in the sand between calculated attacks from behind and actually having the courage to face your enemy when they can fight back. And here's where it gets really interesting. Some people are saying that Paul Heyman is only saying this because he's trying to manipulate the situation for his own benefit, that he's got some master plan brewing, that maybe he's looking to manage Bronson Reed, that maybe he's trying to get in Bron Breakker's head for some future storyline. And you know what? That's exactly what makes Paul Heyman brilliant. Even when he's calling someone out, even when he's making a statement, you can't tell if it's genuine or if it's all part of a bigger game plan. But regardless of his motivations, the impact of what he said is real. Social media is exploding. Fans are divided. Some people are saying Heyman's absolutely right, that Bron Breakker's attack was cowardly and doesn't deserve praise. Others are saying Heyman's out of his mind, that Breakker did exactly what needed to be done to stop a monster like Bronson Reed. The comments sections are wars right now. Twitter is going insane. Reddit threads are hundreds of comments deep with people arguing about whether attacking from behind is justified when you're dealing with someone as dangerous as Bronson Reed. And that's the genius of what Paul Heyman did. He took a moment that everyone thought was black and white, good versus evil, and he threw a grenade into the middle of it that's making everyone question what they saw. Here's another layer that Heyman brought up that's got people talking. He said, Bron Breakker wants to be the next big thing in WWE. He wants to be a champion. He wants to be the face of this company. But champions don't attack from behind. Champions face their opponents in the ring, bell to bell, and they prove they're the better man. What Breakker proved on Raw is that he doesn't have the confidence to face Bronson Reed in an actual match. Ouch. That's a direct challenge right there. Heyman is basically saying that Bron Breakker is afraid to face Bronson Reed in a real fight. That the only way he could get the upper hand was through a surprise attack. And that's got to be eating at Breakker, because everyone knows he's got championship aspirations. Everyone knows he wants to be the guy in WWE. And now Paul Heyman is out here saying he's not ready, that he's not brave enough, that he doesn't have what it takes. So where does this go from here? That's what everyone's asking. Does Bron Breakker respond to Paul Heyman? Does he come out on Raw and address these comments? Does he accept the implied challenge and face Bronson Reed in an actual match to prove he's not afraid? Or does he ignore Heyman and let the wise man get in his head? And what about Bronson Reed? How does he factor into all of this? Is he going to use Heyman's words as fuel? Is he going to come after Bron Breakker even harder now? Is there a potential alliance forming between Reed and Heyman? Because we all know that Paul Heyman doesn't just defend people randomly. If he's going this hard for Bronson Reed, there might be something bigger brewing. The WWE Universe is demanding answers. People want to see how this plays out. They want to see if Bron Breakker has the guts to face Paul Heyman verbally and Bronson Reed physically. They want to know if Heyman's words are going to create a shift in how people view what happened on Raw. And here's the most controversial take of all, the one that's going to make half of you agree and half of you absolutely furious. What if Paul Heyman is right? What if we've been conditioned to celebrate surprise attacks and ambushes so much in WWE that we've forgotten what true courage looks like? What if the real bravery isn't in attacking someone from behind, but in facing them head-on even when you know they're dangerous? That's the question that's making people uncomfortable. That's the question that's causing arguments in every wrestling community online, because it forces us to examine what we actually value in our wrestlers. Do we value cunning and strategy, even if it means cowardly tactics? Or do we value honor and courage, even if it means taking more risks? Paul Heyman has always been the master of making people think. He's always been the guy who can take a simple situation and turn it into something complex and layered. And that's exactly what he did with his comments about Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. He took what everyone thought was a heroic moment and made people question if it was really heroic at all. The bottom line is this: Paul Heyman just created the biggest controversy in WWE right now. He's got people talking. He's got people arguing. He's got people picking sides. And most importantly, he's got people questioning their own beliefs about what makes someone a true fighter in WWE. So I want to know what you think. Drop your comments below. Was Bron Breakker's attack on Bronson Reed heroic or cowardly? Is Paul Heyman right in his assessment? Does attacking from behind make you a smart competitor, or does it make you afraid of a fair fight? And where do you think this whole situation is headed? Make sure you hit that like button if you're as fired up about this as I am. Subscribe to the channel because this story is far from over, and you know we're going to be covering every single development. Share this video with your wrestling friends because I guarantee they've got strong opinions about this, and let's get this conversation going everywhere. The Paul Heyman vs. Bron Breakker war of words has just begun, and it's going to get a lot more intense before it's over.